So I had a friend of mine who sent me a clip and he said, "Hey, would you react to this?" And I thought it might be fun. I've watched it a couple times, but I did think that it'd be fun to kind of talk about it in real time like this. And so we're going to watch this video by Alex Hormozi talking about his faith. He's a financial guy, I think, financial influencer. But he was a Christian. Now he's an atheist, all this stuff. This is his take kind of on Christianity. I want to go ahead and take a look at it with you guys and let's break it down.
When I was like 19 or 20, I became a born again Christian. The whole thing was like, oh my God, life's amazing. Jesus is great. And then I ended up falling away from that because I was like, I don't know if this is true. And then I spent the next 5 years dedicated to apologetics, which is defensive faith of the Christian faith.
So it's very common, I'm noticing, a trend in people who are having faith struggles leaning into apologetics, almost in a way to kind of if they're having doubts. It's like, hey, I'm going to get into apologetics and I'm going to see if I can disprove this thing and kind of work it from the back end. And I think that that's an interesting trend. Like, you got people who are going to Bible schools, getting degrees in theology so that they can kind of try to dismantle it. I think it's very interesting. And it honestly, it's an interesting approach to take, to say, I don't believe in this. I want to get the education to become versed in this to then try to disprove it. I think that's interesting.
So just learning the arguments around like why Christianity like is true, right? I ended up not believing in it, and I can give a variety of reasons, but I'll give you the simplest one. Hopefully I'm not insulting anyone. This is just my belief that I'm sharing, which is one of the strongest arguments for Christianity against other world religions is that other world religions say, like, if you go to the good place, so if you do a good job, you go to the good place, right? And fundamentally, it's a hard paradigm, because it means that, like, at what point are you 51% good versus 49%? Should I have just held one more door open and I would have gone to the good place forever, right? Not even talking about like finite circumstance and creating infinite outcomes, but like whatever. And so if you can draw that line, then it kind of makes it ridiculous, right? It like kind of breaks down on the like be a good person system, right? And so that's all worldviews with the exception of Buddhism and Christianity. With Christianity, they're like, you don't have to be good, you just have to have faith. And if you have faith in Jesus, then you go to the good place, right?
So before he gets into this, I do think that is the interesting difference between Christianity and other world religions. This thing of, if you are this amount of good, if you do this much good, then you can earn this. And we know from Ephesians chapter 2, I think I've done a video on this before, we can't earn salvation. Like, our works can't get us there. It's not good enough, right? And so it's by faith. It's by our faith in Jesus. And it's by our faith in his word and all of these things. Now, he's about to talk a little bit about how that becomes a problem for him too. But I do think that that is enough of a marker of like, hey, maybe we should pay attention to this Christian stuff.
And so the reason that for me, fundamentally, I didn't believe in that was because you actually create another false binary, which is believe or not believe. When in reality is to what extent you believe. It's how hard you believe. And again, you create another 50% line, which is should I believe 1% more? And then I would go into the good place forever, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, the point is that I studied apologetics for a long period of time. And then I was really sad. And I was just like, fuck being sad. And I was like, fuck happiness. I was like, I'm just going to do stuff that I think is cool. And that was like the first break in the chain for me. My slogan to myself was actually just fuck happiness. And that was wildly freeing because I stopped judging myself for not being happy.
Whoa. So I want to hit the binary thing, how you create another binary with faith. And I really don't know that it's a binary. I think that faith, we know from scripture that like faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Now, was he talking physical mountains? I don't think so. But he's talking about the faith that we have. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be 51%. And that's the scope of salvation that I think, I talked about it in the Charlie Kirk video. The scope of salvation is so much wider than I think we want to give credit for. That I don't know that binary exists in the spiritual. I think that having any amount of faith can be something that God can work with. And now, does that mean to say that like you get to live however you want, and then on your deathbed, just make sure that you have, you know, a little bit of faith left or whatever? Absolutely not. There's a standard if you're going to live this thing out. But I think the whole thing of it creates another false, or it creates another binary of did I have enough faith or did I not? I really don't think that that's a thing, because I don't think we see that in scripture. I definitely don't feel like I have enough faith compared to the apostles, compared to the early church leaders. I don't feel like I have enough faith compared to some of the other people. Does that mean that I'm not saved or I question my salvation? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think it is a binary in the sense that you can have more or less faith than another person. But as far as like what gets you saved, I don't think anybody knows. And so I don't think it's a 51 to 49% thing. I don't feel like I agree with this kind of take, because I don't see in scripture where it's like, well, you didn't have enough faith here, and so this thing happened. Sometimes you can have great faith for things that don't happen. Sometimes you can have little faith for things that do happen. And, you know, I don't think that it's as easy as like, oh, well, it just creates another thing, because I think we have to really lean in on this thing of it's such a different system. It's such a different system than any other world religion, any other belief, that maybe it's not a binary thing like everything else is. And maybe we're just trying to subconsciously put it in that framework because that's where everything else is. And I think we have to be very careful about that when we talk about our faith. Then he talks about this other aspect of, I just started doing whatever made me feel happy, or whatever made me feel, he didn't even say happy. He said whatever I thought was cool. I'm kind of just led by whatever. And honestly, I cannot think of a more unfulfilling type of way to live. Because what are you guided by? And where is that line? And what informs your day to day? If it's just what you think is cool, and what kind of legacy are you trying to build? And what, like, there's so many other things that are so massive that I know don't matter to some people, but they matter on some level to everybody. They have to. And so for him to say, I just kind of did what I thought was cool or whatever, is such a hard way to live your life. It's such a miserable way, honestly, because you're not dictated or guided by anything. You just do whatever. And then, so how do you know if you had a productive day? How do you know that you had a cool day? How do you know that you were accomplishing the things that you were wanting to accomplish? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just kind of willy-nilly do that. So let's keep listening.
And then I was just like, oh, I'm unhappy. I'm like, cool, whatever. And I just kept going, and all of a sudden, it just like stopped mattering to me. Like, I don't think about it. I genuinely, like, I don't think like, does this make me happy? Does it not? Like, I don't think about it.
You just do what you want to do in the moment.
Just do whatever I feel like doing. And it's not like it's like all short term, like all pleasure seeking, whatever. Like, I still have a long term perspective of like, this is what I want to build.
Yeah.
Like, I want to write these books. I want to build these courses.
But to what end? That's what I'm saying. Like, to what end? Why would you put a book out if all you're doing is just doing it because you want to do it? There has to be an end. And even if it's like, oh, I just forgot about it or shut it off, I think there has to be an element that exists there. It's the way that we were knitted as humans. We're not animals for a reason. We don't just do things off of instinct or do things off of that. Like, we have goals. And so I even think right there, he's already trying to contradict kind of that philosophy of I don't care, because he's got things that he's wanting to accomplish and see happen for probably the benefit of other people. And so, like, again, the framework just doesn't make sense.
I want to do this stuff, but it's like, those are things that I enjoy. So that's what I do.
I love it. That's great. All right. I don't have anything to say there.
I mean, I had questions, but now I know the answers to them just based off here.
I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just listen and not say anything.
I know.
You know? Like, I don't want to mess it up.
I mean, it does, though, right? It kind of leaves you in a spot of, okay, well, where do we go from here? Like, how do I have a conversation with you now? How do I engage in this thing now? Because, like, if I'm a business partner with this guy, like, what is driving anything? It makes no sense to me that they can just be like, well, you know, it's just kind of whatever I feel like doing, and I've got these goals, but like, so like, what happens when you don't hit that goal, when you don't write that book, when you don't build that course, when you don't do that? Is it just like whatever? Because again, why be looking to things and building things? Like, it to me, and and I know people will probably say this, especially if you've listened to like my debates and conversations I've had with the Curious Civilian. Like, I know it might seem like, oh, well, you're just so like dumb that you just want everything in a nice little box, and that's Christianity is for you. But it's not just that it's a nice box. I really do feel like that's the way we were designed and the way we were created. Like, I feel like you live your life to the fullest when you live in a Christian framework, when you follow Jesus, when you allow him to dictate what you do with your life, when you submit yourself to him, when you do all of these things. That's where you can maximize all of these things. Because without that, like you heard the host, they're like, I don't know where to go. I mean, like, I feel like you just answered everything because of that philosophy. It's like talking to like middle schoolers. You know, you're like, hey, what's your favorite thing? I don't know. Okay, well, what do you like to do for fun? I don't know. It's like, okay, well, I can't do anything with this. Like, I can't do anything. We can't have a conversation. We can't build a relationship, like any of this stuff. There's adults who function like that clearly. And I just feel like, why are you doing anything of substance or value? And what does that even mean to you? Where does the value come from in building a course, writing a book, doing whatever you want to do, like he's talking about? I think that to me is just like very, very difficult to understand. Let's see if there's anything else in this to kind of break down and talk about.
But then I created a belief that now I'm going to mess it up. So
God. Why does it matter, man?
Why does it even matter that I messed it up to begin with?
It doesn't. And you can't mess it
up. And then the comments are going to be, Grant messed it up. And then in the comments, why does that matter?
I know it's crazy stuff, but like, I think that like, if you want to, like, you can't do what 99% of people are doing if you want to be in the 1%. Yeah. Like, fundamentally. And so like, you have to have like what I would consider like maybe uncomfortable conversations. Just be like, that's okay. Like, cool. Like, I'm going to do my thing. And then they're like, and the thing is, a lot of times if you just make your statements of like, this is how I believe, like, people feel like you're attacking them, especially if you articulate it well, because they're like, well, I don't. I'm like, cool. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, do whatever you want. Like, it's all good to me. And so, which is why I don't talk about it as much publicly.
How about this? Yeah. What bothers you? There's got to be something out there that like.
I also have another
wasting
question.
my time.
People wasting your time. That's a really good answer.
That's a
great answer. Yeah.
It's the only thing I don't have a lot of.
This may seem like a silly question, but
Hold on. People wasting your time, which again, if you don't have a framework of like you have long-term goals, but then people waste your time because you know you don't have a lot of it, because you know it's finite. Like, intrinsically, you understand these things, and yet you just kind of hard correct into this thing of, so none of it matters and it doesn't matter and blah, blah, blah. But clearly it does, because there's other people that waste your time. And so, I don't know, it just seems like a weird kind of jumbled philosophy of things that sounds like the order that Christianity kind of gave created a lot of chaos in this thing. And so there's more here. I might link it in the video so that you can watch the rest of it. I think that's all I want to really hit on today about this stuff. But it's very, very interesting to see people kind of adopting these postmodern views, these kind of things of, I'm just going to craft my own way and carve out my own thing. And I think there's some intrigue in that. I mean, obviously that's kind of what we're wired to do. We want to do our own thing, but is that necessarily the best thing? I think that's where the real question is. So let me know, what do you think of this philosophy? Do you adopt something similar? Are you, do you have a faith system? Are you Christian, Buddhist, Methodist, Muslim, like whatever? Let me know where you're kind of at with this and how you would respond to a question like this, or somebody who would adopt this philosophy. I'm interested to hear your comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow so that you don't miss out on more content like this. And send me stuff if you ever want to see reactions or just kind of commentary on things. I would love to be able to have content to give you guys. So hit me up. Can't wait to see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.